Stop everything. Before we get started, I want to highlight Taostats. It's the leading Bittensor explorer giving you clear, real-time insight into everything happening across the network. Beyond just exploring, you can also buy, sell, and stake Bittensor directly on Taostats, making it the go-to hub for anyone in the ecosystem. Whether you're already involved with Bittensor or just getting started, Taostats is the place to go. There's a link in the description below, so check it out and start exploring today. All right, let's get into it.
I get hundreds of DMs from people saying, JJ, what's your target this cycle? And I'm like, miss or sir or them or whatever the case is, you need to understand something. You will not make money unless you're patient and you will for multiple years. And, there's some people who are like, JJ's crazy. Of course you can make money. You just do some smart things. And I'm talking about real, durable, differentiated returns where what you did as an 18, 19-year-old 10x. Most people don't reach that. They get to a 2x or 3x or 4x, and they don't actually reach meaningful returns because they don't have patience. And they also don't understand that if you can tolerate of volatility over, longer periods than other people for quality assets, you will outperform everyone. And so this is kind of what I hope to honor with Bittensor is like all of those as capital's investments are in private equity based startups where we're buying equity. And those are very binary kind of it's like either goes to zero, which it has and does fully, or you recover some of the money, or maybe you just recover 1x, like you get the money back. But in very few cases do you return either something meaningful or nothing really. Like it's either really, really huge or mediocre. Like the middle ground of that is like not super, super common. I mean, it's really either you're barely getting your money back or some couple multiples, or it's death, or it's huge, really huge. And statistics, they call this the power law distribution or the Pareto distribution. And it's like a big hockey stick, it's like a really sharp angled hockey stick.
Yeah.
Right, where like on one dimension it's starting at zero and then you go up a hill, but it's shit. It's like vertical. But there's like a thin area where it goes vertical. And what that law is saying is that 90%, 80 to 90% of the output comes from the top 1 to 5%. Like it's crazy. Like the top 1 to 5%. And then in the top 1%, that's like the majority. So it's like really extreme concentration. Of the two assets that have done that in terms of creating trillions of dollars in value over the last decade, they are Bitcoin and Nvidia. And it is very interesting to me that Nvidia's identity early on in terms of catching fire with GPU sales and going crazy was, at least in one period, due to selling large amounts of GPUs for people to use as compute for street production on the Bitcoin blockchain, which is pretty crazy. And so I think that it's kind of ironic. The next quantum opportunity for Nvidia is to basically heavily invest in a different kind of hash rate, which is the production of decentralized intelligence. And Jensen actually made some comments on this level at an event, I think with, the great Brad Gerstner, Altimeter Capital. And Brad asked Jensen, do we need to continue to see the absolutely gargantuan appetite of the hyperscalers for compute, like Microsoft and OpenAI and Anthropic, in order for this Nvidia stock price to keep going up? Or are there other things that could happen that could continue to unlock enormous amounts of growth? And Jensen immediately said, I am very optimistic about distributed training, decentralized architectures, and so on. So I think that people have not yet connected the dots. The success of decentralized AI will produce value creation events that are perhaps orders of magnitude bigger than what we see in centralized AI companies like OpenAI and Anthropic and frankly Meta. I'll actually put Meta out there. Even though they're great purveyors of the leisure hydration drinks, which is really smart of them to do, I would say, Zuck's philosophy, I identify so highly with. I really admire his courage and his dedication to open, transparent technology. What I find disingenuous about what Zuck is doing with Llama is it's not really open source. It is open source, FAUX. And when you need to do a licensed deal with Zuck, if you're Amazon or Microsoft, that is not open source. And this is a principles thing. I think it's like open source washing when you go to and you market your company and your brand as we are open source. It's not. It's a type of freemium proprietary technology, even though Llama has actually been extremely useful and valuable for the world. And I'm a big fan of the technology for sure. It's super valuable. I think that you have to call it something else. So we actually proposed a term that is like not super controversial. I think it kind of meets people in the middle, which is open weights. And if you call those models that are built in the way that Llama is built open source, it's not really like fully honest about the dynamics at play. And so I think Bittensor hopefully like allows people to see how open you really need in order to kind of make those sorts of guarantees for the industry and for developers, because you have mechanistic enforcement of the way you actually organize compute and training data and kind of pipelines, as well as the inferencing and the fine tuning pieces of it, like the whole pipeline of tasks that produce intelligence. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Bittensor is entirely open source, I'd say, for the most part. There's some arguments that's not completely open source in some aspects, but I guess to step back, what is your investment thesis in Bittensor? Your overall investment thesis? What is that?
To maximize freedom and minimize enslavement. If you can get those things right, you can create tools and infrastructure that maximize the normalization in society on those two dimensions, maximize freedom and minimize enslavement. I think that the side effect of that would be making a lot of money and producing a lot of wealth creation for myself and my investors, as well as the people who should help build those things. So there's like multiple stakeholders. There's like, the people who come up with the capital, people who make the investment, and then the people who build the technology and the companies and the products and the protocols. And then what you have with cryptocurrency is that you have this ability for anyone to participate. People like that are really young and curious and awesome, just coming up in their lives in general. Like, I'm a decade older than you. Feel like a grandma. I mean, I've lived and I've like done so many things that I really admire your curiosity. When I was your age, I was lost, and now I am found. But when I was your age, I was not clear about like the things I really had deep, passionate obsession. I have to say, probably everyone that I work with, I think like Matt Mullenweg comes to mind. So the WordPress, the co-founder of WordPress, I think he created the product when he was 20. So he was 4 years younger than you. So that's just like really, to me, very awesome to see when people find something that draws them in and is really like, I think I saw something on the internet that sometimes the ideas choose you. It's not always that you choose the idea. And I think it's really, really awesome to see in very young people, because if you stick with it, then you really, really kind of like dedicate energy and time to that thing that will likely grow into something that's like really important for humans. You will be able to accomplish anything you can imagine in your life in a really positive way. So that's really, really cool to see.
Well, I appreciate that. You said Bittensor produces decentralized intelligence. How would you define intelligence in those terms?
It's a good question. I think the word intelligence is subjective. It means a lot of things to a lot of, just different people for different reasons. I think my definition of intelligence is the creation of new testable hypotheses. So you can kind of come up with more ideas that are testable, measurable, and that could affect some positive change in the world. I think that that's the definition of intelligence for me. Whether you do that synthetically with compressing information and producing neural networks and weights that code very interesting probabilistic representations of information, I think that's great. That's intelligence. I think humans are going to keep inventing different representations of intelligence over time. And so I think Bittensor very uniquely and sort of almost maybe at least directionally perfectly, if not perfectly, allows for a very abstract definition of intelligence that you can then actually measure and incentivize. And I think that's done in a decentralized manner. You have all these computers around the world doing the record of, the operations that humans are kind of incentivized to go and do. And I think that's really profound, actually. Bitcoin is really a record keeping system. Most people don't understand Bitcoin is not this on-chain money thing, right? It's like the whole on-chain word has been so confusing for people because when you first learn about cryptocurrencies and blockchain, right? So many new ideas, new concepts, and it's very overwhelming for people. But if you really just take for a moment, slow down and understand a few things carefully, blockchain means something specific. The idea of decentralization also means something specific. The idea of on-chain means something specific. And a lot of these notions are sort of like, they're interleaved and conflated in a way that confuses people. So Bitcoin is a record-keeping system for producing a new representation of what we call currency as humans. When you're representing value of an object or an asset or something that you have property ownership over, at least on a temporally sort of finite basis, you can then sort of shift the representation of value record keeping from seashells to dollars, to gold pieces, to whatever in a more abstract way. And the beautiful thing about what, Satoshi Nakamoto, devised around these like ideas of the distributed ledger combined with cryptographic guarantees of the signatures and like what you'd actually write on that ledger. And then also the consensus in a way in which you prove that that's tamperable through, like high entropy, basically, thing, which is like very, so far, really provably smart of a design. And, we're gonna continue to see evolutions of the representation of money. I think for the same reason we're gonna continue to see evolutions of the representation of intelligence.